Oh, we're live. Okay. Well, welcome to Contrabundum. Today we are going to be talking about the Longhouse. Hopefully we have audio now. Thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about the Longhouse. We're talking about items in the news, and we're going to discuss an article by the originator of the term the Longhouse, and you'll love to get CJ Engel's thoughts on that. So hello and welcome to Contrabundum.
The American Revolution, in other words, is never finished. It must always be renewed.
Greater love than this hath no man, than that he lay down his life for his friend.
What if it's not envy?
We must take back our cities, and take back our culture, and take back our country. God bless you, and God bless America.
Back.
We are back, finally.
Second time in 30 minutes.
Yeah, finally we got the mics working and people can hear us, which is great.
Gary has been arrested and executed.
Yep, sent to Guantanamo, sent to CCOT, and we now have Gary too. CJ's never seen Star Trek Deep Space Nine, obviously, but there was. Oh wait, we're gonna be on to Gary 3 in a minute. But there was a
we're in the double digits by now.
Yeah, that's right. There was, this Wei Yun was this like clone, and they kept he kept getting killed. He was like one of the bad guys in Deep Space Nine, and I think by the end of the series they were on to like Wei Yun 11 or 13 or something. So anyway, that was yeah, we'll be on to Gary 3 in no time at all. So yeah, how have you been, CJ, since we last convened?
I've been traveling the world. I was in California last week, and because you had the guests on. Yeah,
on Friday we had some fill-in guests. Will Tanner stopped by for a bit to talk about South Africa and important info there. We need to actually have him on for a full episode just to cover
we were planning on having a series on the history of the situation.
South Africa,
Rhodesia, and all that. Yeah, man, I've been good. Things are happening here. It's cool. Summer's here. It's beautiful in Tennessee in summer.
Yeah, it's
gorgeous.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. And right now, I know it's going to get hot here and be muggy and sticky and all of that. But
someone wants you to check your texts. You have a very important text.
A very important text? Yeah. What? Okay. Anyway,
I'm going to pull up the article that we're going to talk about if I can find it.
Checking my text.
Where is the article?
Oh, yes, it is a very important text. All right, keep on, CJ. Keep talking.
The article is The Religious Right in America versus Vitalism. This was an interview that Bronze Age Pervert BAP did with.
Who's that?
Was it World?
Yeah, World Magazine.
You should talk about BAP. Are we allowed to talk about BAP on this show?
No, we're not. If you've not read his book, you're not allowed to talk about.
Tell us about the man you're not allowed to talk about.
No, like he says, don't talk about him.
Oh.
Right?
But
disavow. We disavow.
We're talking about the article, though.
We disavow. But yeah, we'll talk about the article. So he was interviewed by Emma Fryer of World Magazine, and he starts out. I was recently interviewed by one Emma Fryer, who published this piece on me, Steve Saylor, and Curtis Yarvin. I understand editors impose limitations on word count, but for whatever reason, this article ended up, in my opinion, as cheap PR. So here I'll present my actual full answers to Emma Fryer's questions on the religious right and so-called vitalism.
What does that mean? Was it like was it a bad article or something?
No, I mean what he's saying is that because
he feels used.
Yeah, like he feels like the editors wouldn't let her put his full answers in there, and like when you see these answers, it's like, yeah, you can't soundbite any of these things, like, or take one sentence quotes. Like, it's a fully developed thought, and so it's too bad because I think it's great that World Magazine is discussing these things.
These are good questions for us to answer too, because we're more closely involved with evangelical world in general. So He's someone that I think is worth listening to, though. And I think like one of my favorite developments over the last half decade has been the Claremont folks giving their attention to these things. Because it's not like we look at this on a blank canvas when you say, oh, this guy has the ideal political theory or something. But I think he's hitting at something that's particularly invasive, particularly prevalent in the West, that evangelicalism incorporated is a longhouse institution.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of Pew evangelicals recognize that. And I think that BAP can really put his finger on it in a way that a lot of its leaders cannot.
Yeah, longhoused and not longhoused in, and we'll get to the meaning of that word, because this is why I think it's worth discussing. Because BAP's view of the longhouse is not how it's used in shorthand online in general, as just like shorthand for feminism. It's actually much deeper than that.
Yeah.
And evangelicalism definitely is a longhouse by his definition, not just, it's feminized and everything else. So we should just jump into it. There's a lot of stuff to dig into on here. I mean, the first question is probably the most radical one. Emma asks, how has human biodiversity influenced your thinking? And I'll try not to speak in his accent answering me. By human biodiversity, I assume you mean a code word for the taboo racism. Otherwise, this contemporary coinage refers to so many things, including the inherent and persistent differences between male and female, facts which I assume have influenced your thinking too. In regards to human groups, anyone who can't tell the difference between a Nuba, a Twa Pygmy, a Baluba, let alone between these and a Frisian. Is he talking about me?
Yes.
I think he is. Or who insists that such differences are entirely a result of customs or laws, etc., is obviously insane. Right? Yeah. And of course, the majority of our society is obviously insane. Like, different groups of people are different, right? Not just they have a different culture. Well, where does culture come from? Right? No, they're very, 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 very different. And they're shaped by their place, right? I mean, that's reality. And so humans are determined by both inborn nature and nurture, which includes customs, laws, and education, but also unintentionally or unknown environmental circumstances. There's historically a dispute where some thinkers lean more in one direction for explanatory power. For example, someone like Helvetius thinks that education and environment are far more important than inborn nature. Rousseau and Marx similarly believe in the great malleability of human nature. And right, the malleability of human nature, like, that's a very modernistic view of the world, right? That everybody's a blank slate.
He's
and
clever here. You know what he's doing here, right?
What?
He's pointing out the fact that that humans can be manipulated and changed is really a left-wing concept.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that it's this has always been the left's project, that they can reshape the man,
that we can recreate humanity.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we can recreate it in our image, but
there's something else going on here too. Think about the evangelical world, right?
Yeah.
They also,
you read this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because you're kind of stealing the thunder of some stuff later.
Well, but like, he doesn't make these exact points, but like, I think about the people who deny that they think that grace conquers nature.
Yeah.
Right. That's a very left-wing mentality to have.
Yeah.
Grace doesn't restore nature.
Yeah.
That grace is something that replaces it, and that any natural impulses are therefore evil. Yeah.
That you get saved and suddenly you can dunk a basketball or run a 4-minute mile or get 30 points of IQ or something, or like whatever deficiency you personally individually have.
Well, but where it goes is therefore politics should be underemphasized and the gospel should be the only thing we talk about.
Yeah. Because
the solution to all of these political problems is just preaching the gospel. Conversion is the thing that we need to pursue, not political action.
Every human being is a tabula rasa, is a blank slate. And so they're operating in this left-wing frame where the gospel is a social engineering program.
Correct.
Right. That's how they view it, rather than recognizing that different groups of people are very different and have different skills and abilities. And
these are natural. And
yes.
These are God
God has made them that way.
Yes.
Right. God has made us the way we are. He has made all the various peoples all over the world the way that they are, where they're really great at some things, they're not as good at other things, and that's good.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. I don't know. Is your mic on, Gary? Yeah.
Well, that's the point. That's
we
point.
literally are.
Yeah, that is the point. I mean, we don't want this homogenous goo that the left is trying to push.
Yeah, I mean, it's beyond the left, though. It is. I mean, it's left wing, but it's everywhere. It's everything.
Well, that's
right?
the point.
Even the so-called right.
Well, no, but that's the point. Is that mindset has permeated out and has conquered the West. It is a left wing thing.
Yeah,
it's just that there's no right wing.
There is no right wing to confront it. Yeah. And so he goes on. He says, these thinkers' attitudes. So Marx and Rousseau. These thinkers' attitudes toward religion and Christianity are well known. There is at the moment a contrived dispute on the right between partisans of human biodiversity on one side and religious conservatives on the other. Right. So he's saying, contrived controversy, right, between the two, where they're set at odds. The latter invoke the biblical teaching of the Imago Dei, but I'm not sure their interpretation of this doctrine is historically or theologically sound. Absolutely right, Mr. Pervert. You are absolutely right. It is not historically or theologically sound, right? Anytime, and I say that I'm a broken record, but anytime you hear people say, "Oh, Imago Dei, this person made it in the image of God," you're going to get a whole bunch of leftist just garbage shoveled in your face, right? Every single time you hear that phrase, that's what it means.
Yeah.
All right. Because the Imago Dei, I mean, fundamentally, Genesis 9, the Imago Dei is, and I'm a soapbox. Give me a second, CJ. Imago Dei in Genesis 9 is God giving Noah authority to do capital punishment because he's made in God's image. He's bearing his authority, right? That's what it means fundamentally. Right. Secondarily, it means that humanity is made in the image of God and should be preserved. Like life should be preserved and protected. But it does not mean that all 8 billion inhabitants of planet Earth get to live in the United States. Right. That's not what the Imago Dei means. It doesn't mean that every single person is equal in the sense, in every sense,
in the natural sense.
Right. Because people are not equal.
Well, they also
right?
take it to
CJ's
mean
a lot smarter than me.
that was very kind of you. But I don't know about that. But they also take it to mean that the world is just made up of billions of individuals, that there's no groups, that there's no group differences, there's no collectivities, collectivism. But that's also what they mean, is that it's just the world is just one big group of individuals, and that you can't distinguish between them, that you can't, find a variety of different skill sets, natural traits, predilections, group memory, group priority, group interests. Like, you can't do any of that. It's just a bunch of individuals. That's what Imago Dei means within the context of political revolution.
All of us, Imago Dei means that all of us should be able to be as good of long distance runners as Kenyans, right? That's what it means. In their parlance. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we'll let him continue on.
What it actually means is the whole world gets to move here and gets a vote.
Yeah, exactly. That in practical effect. In other words, the universal openness of every human soul to salvation or damnation does not imply that human beings are equal in physical strength, size, shape, intelligence, character, and so on, or that a state should or shouldn't consider such differences in policy, law, and constitution. Buddhists also believe Buddha arrived for salvation not just of humans, but of all living things, including our brothers and sisters, the birds, San Francis of Assisi. But I'm not aware of Buddhist political movements who claim that there is or should be equality in the phenomenal world. I suppose, however, that a communist, or merely, let's say, someone who feared being called racist, who wished to use Buddhism as a cover for their political beliefs, could make such an argument. I don't know. Anyway, to answer your question, my views aren't influenced by the modern group of writers who use the label human biodiversity. My views on the importance of nature and biology in human social and political life are influenced by Plato and Aristotle. Woke right alert.
Woke right.
Oh no. You know who else had their views of Nature and Biology and Human, Social, and Political Life, influenced by Plato and Aristotle.
Butler.
No, the entirety of the Western world until the 20th century, basically. Right.
I never
That's
know what
your-
answer he
yeah.
wants me to give.
Yeah. That's yeah, I suppose I framed it that way that you would say that.
Dang it, you got me in trouble.
Yeah, I wasn't going there, but you clearly want to.
Who else read Plato? That's
Yeah,
that's what they do.
you know who else read Plato? But I mean that's I mean just think of like and it's funny, like we have our kids in classical Christian education and things like that, and they read Plato and Aristotle, and we're told no, these are woke, right? They're bad. But it's like everybody did, right? Every Thomas Aquinas did, Niccolo Machiavelli
founding
did,
fathers.
the founding
Holy
fathers
smokes.
did,
Yeah.
right? Why do you think they read Plato and Aristotle? Or what? Well, one, because everybody else did,
Mhm.
and two, right? The United States Constitution is shaped the way that it is because of that influence,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's obvious. I mean, this is
We-
Stephen's entire project.
yeah.
Is all the Reformed political thinkers in the Reformation were reading Plato and Aristotle, right? So anyway, that was just part of it here. Go on to the next thing. I'm getting fired up because I had a Mexican Coke. I'm doing PD stuff right now. So second question, Emma Fryer. I interviewed a commentator who said that vitalism is an explicit, formal, deeply considered rejection of certain basic aspects of everything that is enjoined by confessing Christ. Right. She asked, what do you think about that statement? I will ask you, CJ Engel, what do you think about that statement before we look at his answer?
Yeah. No, I think it's false. I think it rests on a very modern understanding of Christ, a very I want to say Longhouse understanding, but like just to go deeper, I think it's an understanding of Christianity that's basically post-progressive.
Yeah.
It's post-pietist. It means that the whole point of Christianity is to remove you from the world, to separate you from your nature, right? To initiate a revolution against God's created order.
Yeah.
That's the kind of Christianity that's opposed to vitalism. And so I do think that there is a Christian version of vitalism, because what it means is Christ, the Christian order, sanctions the original created order. It restores it and it makes it good.
Yes.
And that's what Christian vitalism could be.
That not just, I mean, and when he goes in later here to describe, his conception of vitalism, that it isn't just mere life for the existence of life, right? Because, right, that is just living in the pod, eating the bugs, right? Just building slums for people to eat slop. Right. What is life? I mean, it is fundamental question. Like, what is life for?
Yeah.
Right. Why has God given us this life? Is it to strive after doing great things? Is it using the gifts that He's given us to pursue glory?
Yeah.
Right. Particularly His, but not limited to His. Right. Is that a bad and evil thing?
I think what chiefly characterizes 20th century Christianity is a revolt against nature. I mean, you know the Murray Rothbard phrase?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
I really think that that's what Christianity is considered to be in the post-pietist world. And so, therefore, this statement about it being considered a rejection of certain aspects of everything that is enjoined by confessing Christ is precisely
it's in line with that.
The deconstruction of original Christianity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely it is. I don't think, Bap could read like Calvin, right? His Institutes of the Christian Religion and come away thinking, or like, Bap's hero Nietzsche, or maybe that's too much to say is his hero, but like someone that's influenced his thinking, could read Calvin, right? All of the critics of even like Nietzsche is critical of a very modernist Christianity. And I used to like look at Nietzsche and think like, oh, I can't read that. He's bad. He hated Christianity. And it's like, no, he hated this degenerated form of it that he saw around him in Germany in the 19th century. That it is very much the same modernist thing where it's life for life's sake. It's revolt against the created order. And and you actually like discovering more historic forms of Christianity that preceded, that came before these things. That was like the antidote to all of that. And I'm filled with the same kind of disgust that Nietzsche was, or Bap is, with a statement like that. So he says, vitalism refers to an old philosophical idea that living organisms can't be understood merely through what today we'd call chemistry or physics, but that there is a vital or life force that animates them. Right? A Christian would say, right, that God made man a living spirit. Right? It's the same type of language. Many such thinkers also believe the same force underlies non-living things. It exists in the ancient world in the ideas like love and strife from Empedocles. I'm bad at pronouncing ancient Greek stuff, and arguably in Heraclitus and others. The Stoic version of this idea is introduced to the Christian world by St. Clement of Alexandria. Here's a good recent article that explains what this idea is meant, and he cites an article from Man's World, the genealogy of Nietzschean vitalism. Your interlocutor is probably referring to Nietzschean or 20th century variety found especially in some followers of Nietzsche, like Gabriel de Nunzio and Ernst von Salomon, and which was suppressed after World War II. I've tried to revive this in my book, Bronze Age Mindset. Some of these thinkers are anti-religious and they'd be anti-clerical, but so have been many believing Christians in history. Furthermore, it's possible to have a vitalistic understanding of the world with a completely opposite ethics, such as Schopenhauer did, who respected the ethics of Christianity, or Deleuze or Foucault, who are Nietzschean, quote unquote, but were important for the modern left. I don't think your friend's judgment is plausible. Christians throughout history have had a variety of attitudes and interpretations, some of which he would call vitalist. There's also the possibility he doesn't consider that I and others are simply indifferent to the actual content of Christianity or other religions. Indifference isn't the same thing as philosophical or other kinds of opposition.
Yeah. So let me just pause there.
Yeah.
Another thing about like whether or not someone like Nietzsche would critique Calvin or Luther, like was definitely a vitalist, right? He didn't have a lot of this, like this. In fact, he opposed the Pietists in a lot of ways. But one of the other things that's interesting is look at Christian history, right? Look at King Alfred and Charlemagne and Constantine and the Crusaders and all of these, Charles Martel. Like Christianity was built on a vitalist spirit,
on men doing things that must be done and pursuing the good of their people, the good of those things that God has called them to love.
But the history of the Christian church is a biography of great men.
Yeah,
that's. We should talk about Carlyle sometime. I like Carlyle.
Yeah, we should. Let's move on to the next question. I believe this is the. Oh no, it's not. Never mind. There are a few more questions. I thought this was the last question. Emma Fryer, you've said that you are not a Christian and you have had some harsh criticism for some strands of Christian conservatism, but maybe not all. Is there a strand of Christianity you wish would become more dominant in America? He says, I must clarify that my earliest friends on the right were French Catholic reactionaries. They're a seat of vacantists and believe the Pope is false and a traitor. I don't accept the pretense to leadership of the American conservative intellectual movement in D.C. or its associated politicians as the face of all religious people, including normal religious people in the United States. In my experience, these are people who, at best, want political power and use religion instrumentally. At worst, and in maybe the most frequent case, they are people motivated primarily by things having to do with sexual morality or sexual psychodrama, and think religion is primarily a way to express that orientation. I don't consider, in general and in the usual public cases, religious identification in the modern world to be something be different from something like the gay identity or trans identity. I think the same about other modern groups' self-identification, such as national, ethnic, etc. I am not aware of any strains of Christianity that exist at the moment that don't have the same problem as other modern belief, which is fundamentally broken and exists only as a kind of minstrel show. A man like Celine in his book Death on Credit has the number of modern beliefs of all kinds. It is these individuals who like to insist on a very clear polarization into emotional teams like Christ versus Nietzsche, which they can use for their political purposes that have nothing to do with genuine belief. My friend Second City Bureaucrat has an excellent article on such types and their obsession with me. And he cites Against the New Reaganism Parts 1 and 2 by 2CB. If an admirable strain of public Christianity will exist in the future, it will likely be something entirely new and unexpected in relation to what exists now. I admire the Calvinism of the Dutch in the Republic of South Africa in the early 20th century. Interesting. Very interesting. What would that be like in America?
What would that be like in America?
Yeah.
It'd be denounced.
Yeah, who would that be like in America?
Who would that be like in America?
You're looking at him, buddy. No, I mean, really, like,
you're the Calvinism of the Dutch.
Yeah, I mean, my Calvinism is not Puritan.
Yeah,
it's continental, and it's German and Dutch, and over time that it's been more and more refined in my thinking.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, what would that be like in America? I wonder. Something like that could be highly salutary for the historical American people as well, but I'm not sure the seriousness and fervor is there to provide the ground for it. In my book, by the way, I admire many Christian heroes and history with chapters on the conquistadors who spread the faith to the New World, and on Conradin, the last of the Hohenstaufen emperors whose martyrdom was so important for medieval Europeans. I also admire Christian leader Cesare Borgia, who was a possible papal candidate. That's a joke, but I mean, kind of. Well, you're serious though. Like, I mean, and that's who Machiavelli wrote The Prince on, was Cesare Borgia. Burckhardt mentions the highly particular and sincere interpretation of the Christian religion held by many geniuses of the Renaissance, like Pico della Mirandola and others. I also admire this. Again, Christianity has so many interpretations in history and isn't defined by easily numbered principles or as deductions from a text. All right, so
that's exactly right. I mean, that's propositionalism right there. You know,
propositional Christianity.
Yeah, I used to be really into that.
I know. But I mean, I think he's largely right. And in his point about Christianity being used as this skin suit that people wear, right? Do you remember back in, it must have been 2023, the candidate forum of all the also ran candidates running for the GOP convention that spoke in Iowa? Do you remember that, all the way back there? And like Tim Scott gave this like 10-minute little, or I think he was being interviewed by Tucker, but he just took the mic and stood up and did this like fake, excited black church sermon, like hallelujah, stuff like that. And it was like, the reason he does that stuff is because people eat that stuff up. Right, the constituencies after eats that up, and like all he talked about was like Christian stuff and Christian things, and it's like that does not interest me even in the least. And in a later point earlier in my life, it maybe would have, like, yeah, he's the Christian candidate, this is great. Or like Ted Cruz is another example when he ran against Trump in 2016. It's like, oh, he's the Christian candidate, he's gonna be great, and it's like, no, we need someone who is going to pursue American interests, or we will lose our country. Right. That's the primary need of the hour, not somebody who's going to just tell me a couple Christian things that I like hearing.
Let me read this sentence again.
Yeah.
Something like that could be highly salutary for the historical American people as well, but I'm not sure the seriousness and fervor is there to provide the ground for it. He sounds pretty black-pilled on.
Yeah, he does.
Like grassroots evangelical America.
Yeah, and I get why, man. Like, you don't have to explain it to me.
What do you think about that? Is the future of the right Christian or not Christian?
I think it will be. But I think there's a lot of work that has to be done, and the entire edifice of denominations and the leaders we have, the institutions we have, like those have to be destroyed and replaced completely. I mean, just even look at this. I mean, look at the controversy the last, like yesterday, where the stated clerk of the PCA General Assembly, did you see this?
No.
You weren't really online yesterday. He does an interview with, so a really powerful guy in the PCA's bureaucracy, right? Does an interview with the TGC guy, whatever his name is. And in the middle of it, he holds up a sticky note with his enemies list.
Is that what that was? Enemies list?
Yeah, and it had like names all over the spectrum. It had names like Carl Truman on there, who's like, I guess I'd probably write a sticky note, put his name on there too. But it had like guys like Bill Smith and Jeff Myers and Peter Leithart on there. Like,
so
and he was saying like all of these guys, they've either left the faith or they've abandoned their families or committed suicide or whatever. And it's like,
what was the context of this?
I don't even know. I didn't watch it. Who cares?
So he's like a left-wing guy, or
no? He is like a really good example of the kind of leaders that our denominations have, where they're just so winsome and friendly and nice, and they would never say anything offensive. And the thing that he's upset about with these guys is that these are troublemakers. But that's the running theme of all of them, is they offend a lot of people, right? And they upset people, and they tell you what they think. Can't have that. No,
yeah,
you need good little boys that are gonna keep the institution going, right? That's the point. And it's like, and I'm not just picking on the PCA, right? The SBC, all of their leaders, right, that actually get voted in and hold positions on committees and things like that, are like this. The OPC, the LCMS, all of them they care about the institution, and they care about being nice, good little boys, and they're very winsome, right? They're very winsome. Oh, are they winsome? But these are the people that'll stick a knife in your back in a second, right? They're cutthroat. All of them. All of them are. And it's like all that stuff needs to be destroyed. And I think in God's providence, those things are being destroyed, right? I think in 100 years, will these denominations even exist? Probably not. Right. There was a good, let me find it. There was a good tweet by a frequent commenter in the group chat. But tell you talk while I find the post.
Well, I can read the next question.
No, because that'll sidetrack me. Hold on.
All right.
It's not. Come on. It's not loading right. It's a mess today.
All on Twitter.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I think I found it. Where is it? Maybe it was an old tweet and I can't find it now. Might have been an old tweet. No, I gotta search his account. Man. Let me find it. I bet it'll come right up. Yeah, here we go. Oh yeah, this is about what the other topic we're going to talk about, right, from John Carter, Martian warlord. They're really just two religions right now, based and woke. Both the Church of Based and the Temple of Woke count Christians, atheists, and pagans among their congregations. But these are more like sects within the United Faith traditions. At the end of the day, whatever their doctrinal disputes, a based Christian has more in common with a based atheist or based pagan than he does with a woke Christian, and of course, vice versa.
Interesting.
It's a long tweet. It's a good tweet. But I mean, more or less, he's right. Right. He's like totally right. I mean, we could quibble with some of the things and everything else, but at the end of the day, right, I look at it and it's like, man, I've got way more in common with like tradcats and like ortho bros and all these kinds of guys.
Someone like Lomez, right?
Yeah.
I have way more in common with Lomez than I do a lot of like everyday Christians.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's true.
And it's like, what do you do with that? Right? What do you do with these things? I think what it means is like there is there's a realignment based on, right, what people live in reality and what people still hold to the myths and of the left-wing social program and social engineering program that we've been under for decades, right? That's the two groups.
Yeah.
Ultimately. Yeah. And then you got some like caught in the middle that don't want to basically be on the right, and are being dragged kicking and screaming, one way or the other. And like that's where we're at. And so in terms of like the future of American Christianity and all of these things, I think, right, unless it something like this is resurrected, right? And there are leaders within churches who will live in reality, or not, like, then it's just it's not going to die or like go away, but it'll just remain in this stagnant environment where it's very pietistic and it has no real answers to any of the fundamental questions of life.
I think most of like evangelical Christianity and its institutions are going to follow like post-war consensus liberalism wherever it goes. If it goes down in flames, those institutions are going to go down with it.
Yeah.
If it has some sort of like temporary revival or something and right-wing Christians are pushed to the wayside, then the evangelical base will be there. And I think it's going to follow wherever the regime, like 1970s through 90s regime thinking goes. That's where it'll be.
Yeah. There is this idea that that the church leads the culture, that it's very prevalent in like my world, right? And it's like, no, maybe 500 years ago, no, not at all. The church is the caboose on the back of the train, and it just follows. It follows wherever it's going. Now, and the kind of church that does lead the culture and is the engine on the front of the train is the one he's describing here, right? Like Boer Calvinism in South Africa, or something like that, or the kind of Calvinism in Europe during the Reformation, right? That's one that can lead, right? What we have now,
no,
right, where everybody's afraid of being called racist, or everyone's afraid of being called whatever, like, or being called a bigot or a misogynist or whatever. It's like, man, if you're afraid of that stuff, if you're afraid of if you're walking on eggshells because of the post-war consensus, like, you're a caboose, man. You're not an engine. That's just the way it is. Sorry. So her next question is really good too. What are your thoughts on the future of the religious right as part of the conservative movement in America? Right. He says, religious people in the modern world are obviously the only remaining popular core of any recognizable right-wing movement. I am under no illusions about this. I and my friends, a number in the dozens, maybe, and have never had any pretensions of being a political leader or a popular force. That said, I also deny what you call the religious right, by which you mean not the people, but their self-appointed faces. Movement leaders, intellectuals, and politicians accurately represent these people, their beliefs, and their interests, right? Extremely important point, right? The lay people, to one degree or another, like, even if they've been psyoped and into all sorts of like false things, right? At some level, they get it in a way that their leadership doesn't, in a way that their leadership is trying to steer them away from, right? I mean, just think of all of these pastors. Like, just think of the average TGC writer who's a pastor is probably like freaking out right now that half his congregation or more voted for Donald Trump and loves him and would crawl over broken glass for him.
Yeah.
Right. They don't know what to do. They're losing their minds over this stuff. And so it's a form, he goes on, it's a form of demagogic Pharisaism, which was rejected by evangelicals and others who were tired of charlatans like Ted Cruz and Rick Santorum and Karl Rove, etc., cynically using religion to mobilize them and then give them nothing or little. They voted for a New York urbanite playboy who apparently is indifferent to religion, amoral personally, and not for people who avowed their faith. They were presumably tired of the minstrel show and wanted someone real and vital who would not lie to them. As it happens, Trump, the Playboy TV star with supermodel wives, is the man who delivered the much hoped for repeal of Roe versus Wade. Interesting how that happened.
We've made that point so many times.
Yeah. This pleased the mass of believing Christians in America, but also, I think, was a disaster for the movement social conservatives who have now lost the basis for much of their funding, activism, and jobs. Fact check, true. You can deduce from what I just said my opinions regarding the position of religion and politics in the modern world. To clarify that, I think a similar situation holds for Judaism in Israel and Islam in Muslim countries. But these have always been public and political religions. Christianity, by contrast, existed mostly purely in the life of Christ himself, which he says is most beautifully memorialized in Nietzsche's Antichrist. But he's right. This point is absolutely right. Right. That something has happened where there is a disconnect between the lay people and their leadership. And it has never been more obvious than it is now. Right. You go to the mega churches in all throughout America, or the big churches all throughout America. The people that attend there, right, are the kind of people who would wave mass deportation signs at the Republican National Convention. And the people that lead them are the kind of people horrified by mass deportations now signs at the Republican National Convention.
It's true.
Right. Something has to give.
Yeah.
Right. Something has to give with this entire dynamic. And I think it will. Right. I mean, you look at the rise of evangelicalism in America in the latter half of the 20th century. Right. What caused that? Why was it that way? It was because the mainline churches completely collapsed. Right. They imploded because they rejected core tenets of the faith completely. And the lay people didn't. And so where are we going to go now? Well, go to Pastor Jim's church down the road, with his guitar and everything, because he still believes the Bible. And that's what happened by the tens of millions in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Right. That's what happened. And so can something like that happen again? I think so. I think so. All right. We haven't reached the point yet where there's the critical mass for it.
And you don't need, you need critical mass, but you don't need masses.
No,
that's the point.
No, you need something though that the ball begins rolling and it has momentum. And I mean, I talk to people every day that want to move here because one of the reasons is every church around them is either totally left wing, totally feminized, or it's on paper really good, but deep down, the wives run the show in these churches, and the pastor will run you out if you get doxxed, and all the it's not a good place to be. There's no place for people that think like all of our people do, right, to go to, that care about America, right, that want people deported from the country, that care about our history and the future of the country for our children, right? That you're not allowed to think in those terms in these kinds of churches, but lots and lots and lots of people do, and they're becoming much, much more radical in their thinking as well, which will be at odds with their leaders.
You're starting to see it where the effort to push these people to the margins and to kick them out of churches is actually really heating up.
Yes, it is.
You can see it everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear stories every day about friends that are getting kicked out.
Yeah.
They're, Twitter's getting doxxed. Their signals are getting doxxed. It's oh yeah, it's happening. And and all it's going to do is push them rightward.
Oh, absolutely. And the hard thing about that is they don't realize how much this, they're damaging people's faiths, their individual faith, right? When all of these people who you've known and trusted for years, that have been with you in various crises in your life and ministered to you, will now tell you, you're a bad person because you retweeted that, right? Get out of my church, right? That it's there's nothing sinful or wrong about what,
or you attended the wrong conference, you read the wrong book, you reposted the wrong person,
you listened to the wrong podcast, ours, and And it's like, no, like that nothing any of these guys have said is wrong. And none of it's untrue, right? None of it is sinful in any way that you could, Galatians 3:28. So it's like, there's no, it's like people are over that, right? They try to cobble together these arguments to defend the post-war consensus, and they can't, right? It fall like people see like right through that, right? But they think it's going to work because it works on most people. And you're like, no, that argument doesn't carry any weight. Well, we're almost done with this half of the show. We'll get to the ad in a little bit, Gary. Don't worry, it's okay. I'm taking control. On to Gary 3. So anyway, let's get to the next question, because this is the meat of the entire thing. Emma Fryer asks, the term longhouse has entered the popular lexicon and probably taken on many meanings you did not intend. What do you think longhouse should mean in 2025? He says, the longhouse word is taken off to an extent. I never expected it, but often it's come to mean something synonymous with feminism or the influence of women in politics or social and family life. I simply direct readers to part 2 of my book, The Iron Prison, where I first used this term. More generally, in my book, it refers to societies and groups that are directed to the preservation of mere life, as opposed to aspiring for something beyond mere life. As such, it refers more specifically to the gerontocracy, right? What does that mean?
What does that mean? I don't know. Where is it?
Rule by old people.
The gerontocracy?
Yeah. Like, I mean, the average age of a U.S. senator is like, what, 75? Yeah, Yeah, Bernie Sanders just announced he's going to run for Senate again in 6 years when he's going to be 91. Yeah, it's like we'll get to the news items this week, but like Joe Biden has had cancer for years and they just keep rolling him out there, right? His brain is goo. And it's like, nah, you're the president, you're in charge. Like that. We live in a gerontocracy.
Yeah,
we totally do. Which seems to be universal in primitive societies. Yeah, interesting. In such societies, the woman also holds immense cultic and social power, even in nominally patriarchal tribes or nations. Right? Sounds like a lot of Reformed churches. But more particularly, it refers to a society that is directed to the satisfaction of these principles, regardless of whomever holds leadership positions. Thus, I have young Arab friends who think that modern Islamic society, for all its brittle masculine bluster, is fundamentally a longhouse society. I've had Muslim guys tell me that before.
Yeah. Do you remember my tweet about the Arabian Nights that got picked up?
I don't remember.
Oh, it was like it was like 2 years ago.
That's a long time.
I had a fight with someone.
A lot of tweets. The same is true for historically patriarchal Jewish society and for most African situations. In the Christian world, you had exceptions among some of the nobility, and very conspicuously in orders such as the Templar Order, the Teutonic Order, the Knights of Malta, etc. But these are all gone now. In other parts of the world at various times, you had various exceptions. The Mongol Nokur concept is such an exception. But the longhouse is the rule among mankind. It isn't a modern exception. When I first published the book in 2018, many doubted the vehemence of the monstrous image. Like I tried to get Gary to do the Venus of Willendorf for the thumbnail, and he's like, we can't put that in people's faces. So Google that now. But like that's what they worshipped, right? The statue of Venus of Willendorf, just this bulbous, obese woman, right? That was their goddess.
Yeah.
Right. And so the whole concept of the Paleolithic longhouse is that all of the young men are under the thumb of this den mother. Right.
They're doing that now with the statues, like the bronze ones.
Yeah, I know, man.
In New York, Central Park or something.
I know. Yeah, it's like, what is going on? Like, yeah, it's a Venus of Willendorf, man.
Same thing.
Or if like in the movie which CJ has not seen, 13th Warrior, great movie. I thought it was excellent.
He endorses everything he's seen.
No, I don't. I'll let you know about Mission Impossible tonight. But CJ doesn't want to go. He thinks I'm in Trash World because I'm going to go see a Tom Cruise movie. I disagree. But anyway, Right. It's these like Vikings. It's a great Viking movie. It's actually Michael Crichton's retelling of Beowulf, and the enemy that comes and attacks them, right? They eat human beings and things like this, and they stumble upon this a farmhouse where people are half eaten, and one of the guys picks up a little stone thing he finds on the ground, and it's a Venus of Willendorf statue, right? Grendel's mother is Venus of Willendorf.
Yeah.
So anyway, like that's what the Longhouse is right. He's saying, he goes on, right. This is good. When I published the book first in 2018, many doubted the vehemence of this monstrous image, right? Because he has a quote in the book that I haven't read, where he says, imagine, the future Bergen-Belsens, staffed by Charlie Sheen-faced women, or no, Martin Sheen-faced, not Charlie. Martin Sheen-faced was great. Great line. Must have sounded on Goodreads or something. But the following year came the Wuhan flu crisis, where youth was sacrificed worldwide on the altar of fear of death and desire for base self-preservation of the old and of mentally ill middle-aged women, who at present hold decisive social and political power all over the world. And it's like, yes, that is exactly what happened, right? Kids weren't able to like have their senior year of high school or their freshman year of college. Like kids were not able to have their, their senior year of high school football or have a senior prom or any of the like these awesome people were not able to have weddings. Right. No. It's good stuff. It's stuff like kids need to have that stuff. Like this is the flower of their youth, right? The great things that happen when they're all stuck inside their homes because 7-year-old people are afraid of the common cold is going to kill them. And people are like, well, 1 million people died from it. And it's like, yeah, we've had pandemics before in the past, lots of them, right? All like every decade there's something like the year I graduated from college, there was a swine flu pandemic and the president of the university wouldn't shake anybody's hands when we got our diplomas. And I'm like, man, I paid tens of thousands of dollars and the guy wouldn't even shake my hand. What a coward. And I just stared daggers at him. Worthless piece of garbage. Like, no, you're going to risk your life for this, man. Anyway, like, yes, people die in plagues and have diseases, right? Never have we shut the entire world down so we could keep people alive for another 5 or 10 years and steal the best of people's youths, right? When you're in your mid-20s, you get married and you can't have a wedding, right? It's disgusting. But meanwhile, we had 3 giant funerals for George Floyd, right? Yeah. And so like the image of that is a Longhouse society right there, right? What happened in 2020? So because of this, he says, many became convinced. I'm writing an article further elaborating the image of the Longhouse in response to this and the unexpected popularity of the phrase. He'll never actually write it. He's just like me.
He's just like me.
I'm gonna go see it. I know Josh Pulver says CJ is still watching books. No, that's what I do. I watch books.
You watch books.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't read anymore. I don't read anymore. Either.
I don't read.
I don't read either.
But yeah, that's so any final comments on the PAP article?
Not really. It's pretty succinct.
It was very good. Or remember, I didn't read an article, but like his answers to those questions.
Are you optimistic about Christianity's base in America?
Which kind?
Like conservative, evangelical?
Yes.
You are?
Yes, I am.
Young men?
Particularly among young men. Yes.
Gen Zers.
Yeah. I think the Zoomer, right. The boomers don't know what to do about the Zoomers, man. Right. And generally speaking, we have several boomer viewers.
It's crazy.
They're great people.
Our biggest audience is among Zoomers.
Yeah.
Like that's interesting.
Yeah. The very small minority of boomers. So I have to say we love our boomers. the ones that are ours.
Yeah.
But overall, and of course they'll be the first to tell you, yeah, my generation, man, it's cooked. And but yeah, I think the young men, right, particularly because like it's important that he brought up 2020 and the Wuhan flu, because they experience. I think that's the key to unlock everything in their generation. Otherwise, they'd just be as bad as our generation is, and previous generations are, right? But they went through something.
You think it was COVID?
Everything was stolen from. Well, I think it's COVID. I think it was the 2020 riots. I think it was all of these things where like, and the election, like everything you're lied to when you're very, very young.
You know what the biggest thing was for people that I knew was the mask. There's something like
it's humiliating
and humiliating about wearing a mask.
You have to cover your face everywhere you go. And part of it too is like all of the authorities, right? And not just like political authorities or people in charge of medical thing or whatever, but like all of the authorities said, you have to do this, right? Pastors telling them, you have to get the vax, you have to do this. And those people never be trusted ever again. Right. Did you see the report today from MIT? So it's not like Uncle Dave's blog spot looking at VAERS data. It's like MIT is saying this, right?
That 600,000 deaths can be attributed to the vaccine. Right?
Yeah. And it's like, okay, MIT's doing it, so they're probably lowballing the number. But if that's the lowball number, dude.
Total vindication.
Yeah. And so all the people that said, no, you need to get vax, you need to do it. Even and if Joe Biden says you have to get it, right, you can't disobey him because Romans 13, right? None of those people should ever be listened to ever again.
No, they're not going to apologize.
No apology. No, I guess I got this one wrong. Right? No. I mean, most of them don't apologize.
No.
Right? I mean, I put a tweet out, but it was when notifications weren't working, so I don't know if anyone replied to it. But right, are the Davenant guys ever going to apologize like for pushing the vax and telling people that they're in sin if they don't get it? Right? If they disobey Romans 13. Right. I haven't seen any of them apologize for that. Right. Publicly say, I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. Right. Then maybe, we'd give them a little bit more benefit of the doubt. But it's like, no, I am any contemporary political. Your opinion is totally invalid now. No, I will not listen to you ever again. And that's what they've gone through. Like these young, like they've gone through that.
Yeah.
All the people that had authority over them were like, because like that's what authority does. It makes you believe things, right? Everybody believes things, not just on the base. Oh, I figured it out myself. I looked at the data. I looked at the evidence, right? Nobody forms beliefs that way.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Everybody forms their beliefs based on what was I told by somebody important, whether it's my mom when I'm a little kid or the teacher or the pastor. Like, so if you abuse that authority to do something evil, you are never going to be listened to ever, ever, ever again. And so guess what the Zoomers are doing? They're not listening to these guys on anything. And they're assuming whatever you're telling me is 180 degrees wrong. Right? That's what's happened. Right? There's an epistemological crisis. All right. Ad time. We'll be right back.
If you're like me, you grew up on beef jerky. It was a must-have for any road trip. But most beef jerky is loaded with sugar, soy, and nitrates. Ew. Farmer Bill's is a Christian-owned meat snacks company in South Dakota that offers pasture-raised meat snacks. They make biltong. It's like beef jerky, but air-dried with clean ingredients and way better. The pre-sliced biltong is perfect for protein on the go, and the slab is great for snacking or hosting a party. It's like a large, dry-aged ribeye with perfect marbling of fat.
Go to farmerbillsprovisions.com or click the link in the description below and use code CONTRA to save 20% off your order today.
Farmer Bill's Provisions, the perfect protein snack.
Summer's Pet Treats makes all-natural dog treats using high-quality, human-grade ingredients.
Every ingredient is carefully selected for a specific nutritional value, which means they're healthy.
Ben, are you eating the treat?
Yeah, dude, I got that dog in me.
I don't think that's what they meant by human grade ingredients, but hey, if you want to support a Christian-owned business that believes in the Dominion mandate, then go pick up some healthy dog treats at summerspetTreats.com.
And use code NCP10 at checkout. That's summerspetTreats.com and use code NCP10.
Get that dog in you. Well, hey, everybody, consider this your official invite to join us here in Ogden, Utah for our annual New Christendom Press Conference this June 12th to the 14th. We're going to be having a great time. Lots of great speakers, live episode of the King's Hall, live episode of Haunted Cosmos. I'll be putting on a concert, a singles mixer, a pastor's breakfast, a business mixer, a VIP hangout. We've got it all. And you need to go to newchristendompress.com/2025, link in the description, to get tickets and more information. We hope to see you there. What are you waiting for?
All right, we're back once again. Ready to roll, CJ? No?
Yeah,
No, he's dealing with things.
doing things.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we were discussing dinner plans while you were away. So the next thing we wanted to get to was very interesting tweet. Can you pull up the tweet, Gary? The JD Hall tweet. Right there. It says JD on the left. There we go. Yeah, if you could pull that one up, that'd be great. It's an interesting post by him. He has a lot of interesting posts, right? On Shiloh Hendricks, right? Shiloh Hendricks, who used an epithet she probably heard in a rap song on a park urchin rifling through her belongings, is wearing a necklace. I can't see it now. I got it on mic. Is wearing a necklace depicting Freya, a goddess associated with the Aesir pantheon of Norse mythology. A lot of white folk are turning to Northern European pagan deities, convinced that Christianity has become weak and doesn't show concern for their ethnic heritage or modern cultural well-being. And these pagan traditions are growing in popularity among those disillusioned with multiculturalism and is presented as a back-to-your-roots movement for angry white folk. It'd be really nice for evangelicals to focus on reaching white people with the gospel because it's been ages since they made an effort. And so, right, what are your thoughts on this, CJ? Or you're too engrossed?
No, I'm listening. Sorry.
Okay.
I apologize to the audience of having an emergency.
No, it's okay.
I think that's right. I think that's exactly right. A Christianity that has been sucked out of its natural layers, because humans need natural layers, they're going to pursue them elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so evangelicalism has nothing but its own leaders to blame for this.
Yeah.
And again, they still refuse. They're still doxing people. They're still kicking people out of churches.
Yeah.
And very, very few churches are welcoming to those who most need it right now.
Yeah.
Yours is, I know that for sure. And there are a few others, but most of the time, if you begin to seek these natural layers that are built into the human construct by their creator, you're going to get pushed out.
So what do
that's
you
a very
mean?
dangerous situation.
Yeah. What do you mean by natural layers? Right.
Yeah, the
So
natural layers are
elaborate on
those that look to find meaning in their kin, their familial relations, their heritage, their bodily capabilities, right? Like, you know how every time Stephen Wolf talks about like working out or getting fit, he gets lambasted by the
people
evangelical
freak out
elite.
about that.
That's a natural layer that men are supposed to pursue those things.
Yeah.
But that's an idol, right? You're not allowed to do that. Or a family.
Yeah.
Family's an idol, right? These are natural layers that men are pursuing. And so they're going to go to things like paganism because Christianity itself has been emptied of them.
Well, I think particularly on the ethnic aspect of it, right, where people, and I think this is a phenomenon that is happening everywhere, is that if you're allowed to have Korean churches and Black churches and Chinese churches and Hispanic churches and everything else, and even like the suggestion that, well, maybe we should have a white church, right? Like people will freak out at that. And like, I'm not suggesting that we should, right? I'm not saying that we should either. But they freak out about that, right? Because it goes back to what Stephen says all the time, that every group, right? The in group is their group, and everybody else is the out group.
Mhm.
But for Americans and for Europeans and people in the Anglosphere, right, they are their own in groups, out group.
Yep. I love that.
Right. That
Yeah.
that they themselves are the out group.
Mhm.
It for their group.
Yeah.
Right. Every single other group, right? You if you want to, work at a Fortune 500 company and HR is staffed entirely by Indians,
Mhm.
guess who's getting H-1Bs and guess who's not getting a job?
Right.
Right? Because they care about their group. Right? It's natural. It's normal. Right? You look at all sorts of various different things, right? Like even like a construction company in the hood, right? That's owned by a black dude, right? Who's he going to hire for his workers? He's
Yeah.
going to hire black guys, right? And nobody's like, oh, that's bad. You shouldn't do that. That's wrong. It's like, yeah,
It's not wrong.
and it's not,
No.
right? It's just people. But the overall like cultural view is like white people can't have a people, right? Everybody else is allowed to have. Those are my people.
Yeah.
Right. They can't have their own identity as a people whatsoever. And so what has happened, and certainly not within Christianity whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you used to have this in the early part of the 20th century where you would have, right, various European ethnic groups that would settle areas.
Mhm.
And it would be like my hometown is this. It was all Germans and Scandinavian Protestants and German and Irish Catholics.
Yeah.
That settled the town. And there was one Catholic church and there are a couple different Protestant churches.
Mhm.
And that was it.
Mhm.
Right. They were all the same people and they had their own ethnic solidarity as a people. And you would see this in cities too. Right. The neighborhood my wife grew up in was a Polish Catholic neighborhood. And it was who lived everywhere. It was all Poles who were Catholic. Right. That's it. And now, right, those neighborhoods were completely destroyed in the middle of the 20th century on purpose. Right. Then people wrote about this. Like, we have to break up these ethnic neighborhoods. Right. We have to destroy them. You're not allowed to have those things. Right. You're not allowed to have any sort of ethnic solidarity whatsoever.
Mhm.
Right. Meanwhile, everybody else is. But the thing that is changing is, and you could do that when like white people were just generic American, they were 80-90% of the country, right? You could live that way where it's like, we're all the same. Things are good, right? Yada, yada, yada. Right. Cool. You could more or less live that way and it would work out okay. But now, what are we like 50?
Yeah.
4%, like
crazy.
what, or is it 61? I
No,
get different numbers all the time.
Yeah. I think it's in the 60s.
And they're like by 2030 or 2040, white people will be 49%.
Mhm.
Right. And they celebrate it.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're a minority,
It's not happening, but it's good that it is.
yeah, that's right. When you're a minority in your own country, then like the only place where like white group preference is allowed. The only place in America it is.
Like Massachusetts.
No. I guess. Yeah, like Martha's Vineyard. Yeah. Even though it's not explicit, I'm talking like explicit,
okay,
not
okay.
implicit, but explicit.
All right, whatever.
In prison,
Mhm.
in prison gangs, right? You could choose to be an individual in prison, but everybody else has their gangs. And so guess what you're going to join? You're going to join the guys that look like they're in American History X.
Yeah.
Right. That's what happens. Right. And so when you make all of American social environment
Mhm.
where now you're a minority and there are lots of other groups in the country that they all practice in group preference shamelessly. Right.
Mhm.
I mean, they feel nothing bad at all about that whatsoever. Then, right, the pressure is on for people to begin doing that.
Yeah.
Begin doing like, well, I guess these are my people, right? And in the midst of all, and like I think people are already starting to feel that way, right? And this like people doing the Norse paganism LARP is like their way to do that.
Yes, it is.
Because Christianity in America,
It's been emptied of its naturalness.
yeah, is saying that no, this stuff is evil unless you're a minority group. It's evil and bad to think of yourself as part of a group.
Yeah.
And so you're wicked and evil and sinful, and we have nothing for you. And I think Hall's broader point is right. I mean, just think about like foreign missions, for example. Is it billions of dollars that get spent on missions to Africa and third world countries and things like that, when like our own country is falling apart, and our own country is de-Christianized, and they don't seem to care.
You can see
About,
how
like,
you can
our
see
people,
how the
Americans.
framework of like modern Christianity just really plays into that, because like Wilson, we had that debate with Doug Wilson years ago. He said we have more in common with these foreign Christians than we do with our own neighbors. In some
With
ways.
that Nigerian Anglican woman.
Yeah. So like, and so that money flow follows into that theology. The theology is very related to material trends like that.
And it's like, I mean,
If that's true, then the churches should be sending billions of dollars over.
yeah, like religiously, in one sense, it is true, right? But
when you suck out the natural layers,
exactly,
Christianity, then it perverts it.
when you've emptied, right? I mean, it always goes back to the heat map, man. It goes back to the heat map, where like foreign missions is the one on the right, the left wing one, where it's like there's no ordo moris here, right? Everybody is my brother, all of the human race. But on the left side of the heat map, the right leaning one, it's my family, and then my neighbors, and then my nation, right? When that's sucked away, right, then that's what you're left with, right? Those layers, and it's like there is no right, because I mean, you even think about this when people want to do like ministry to minority groups or whatever. Like, what do? Right, they become like Kevin Costner in Dances with Wolves, right? They go. I know you haven't seen it. They go native, right? And they begin. How do they begin to talking though? Right? If you want to, like, I could guarantee you right now. I don't know any inside info on this or whatever, but like at Reformed seminaries, when guys go there and are like, you know what, I want to do work in the inner city. Right. And so what do they start reading? They read stuff about racial justice and all this woke stuff. Right. So they can speak the language and have something to give them. Right. That's what they do. That's what I'm sure at Covenant and at least one of the Westminster, maybe not Westminster. I don't know. I shouldn't say any names because I don't know for sure. But they're doing that, man. Like they're doing that stuff. And but you know where they don't do it for? Where they don't go native for? Americans. They don't care. Right? Americans are just pay pigs to finance all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they are. And it's sickening and disgusting. And so you see why this stuff was on the rise, right? Because you'll see people freak out about it. They'll be like, "Oh man, this is a big issue, guys." Right, this is happening. I hear from guys like it's big in the military, and I see this, and it is big in the military. Right, I see this guys wearing Thor hammer necklaces and stuff, and they're gonna get like Norse chaplains and everything else. It's like, why do you think that's happening? Yeah, right. Why do you think that's happening in our country? It's because you've had nothing to offer these people at all. When they vote for a politician who even marginally represents their interests as a people, you call them racists and bigots and Nazis for supporting Donald Trump. And so why do you think you're driving people out of Christianity? Right. And you are. Right. We don't want those people anyway. We don't want any of them. Right. This isn't funny. Like those are the only people that the gospel is not good enough for, or that aren't good enough for the gospel.
Well, there's the true marginalized in our society.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Oh, the gospel it's for everybody. Like I mean, you look at the He Gets Us campaign, like the tranny there and all this stuff. And it's like we're gonna minister to those people. Yeah. Right.
Well, the analogy of like the whore being stoned in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
That's not the prostitute today. That's the right wing white guy.
The prostitute today, like it's
Yeah.
she gets invited to the State of the Union speech or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
No, though they're honored in our society,
Mhm.
right? Who are the people that are dishonored and despised and blamed for everything?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. The people that you think aren't good enough for the gospel.
Mhm.
Right. Those people.
Exactly.
Those people. Someone like Shiloh Hendricks, right? They'd be happy to see her life destroyed over using a word.
Mhm.
Right. That's who's not good enough for the gospel to these people. So, right. I think the gospel's for them. What a crazy idea.
Revolutionary.
The gospel of Jesus Christ is for everyone. Wow. That's nuts. Who would think of that? Okay. Anything else on that one?
Nope.
Those are your final thoughts. Well, I get maybe we should wrap some of it in a bow because I'm discussing identity politics and things like that. Right. And we're not trying. I mean, I'm not saying like that it's good. We should have it. Wouldn't it be wonderful? It's being forced upon us.
Mhm.
Right. It's
Well, let
being
me
forced
say one
upon
more
everyone.
layer on this. Let me say,
Yeah.
I say this a lot, but it's not hatred of the other that animates us. It's love of our own. Like that's
Yeah.
something that like the whole point of these types of discussions is not because we want to hate people who are different.
Of course not.
It's that we want to remember and love those that God gave us natural affirmation for.
Affection for. Yes.
I think that's one of the mischaracterizations. That's what we always get blamed for is hate.
Yeah.
And
It's like, man, I really don't hate anybody.
no,
right.
it doesn't.
And maybe
doesn't
it's
animate
individuals.
us. Well, we hate evil. We hate enemies. We
hate people that do evil
hate
things.
sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not chiefly animated by our hatred
like,
of
man,
people
this
who
group-
don't live around us.
This group over here, I don't like them. They're all bad people. Right. I don't say stuff like that.
No.
And I don't think it's good to say stuff like that. Right. I hate these people. No one is saying that. So 3 more items in the news. Earlier this week, former president, so-called Joe Biden, revealed that he has stage 4 prostate cancer.
Nobody could have seen this coming.
It's a tough break, man. It's a tough break. Yeah, there's a lot of now apparently former members of the military that should schedule a routine exam. Just pull up your skirt, ma'am. But I mean, the biggest thing is the speculation about it, and speculation is probably too strong a word. Right. Anyone who's had a relative that has had this specific cancer, I know many people, many of you listening probably have dealt with this with a dad or a grandpa or an uncle or something, knows that like prostate cancer takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And especially to develop to the point of being terminal. Right. I mean, we actually Scott Adams announced that he has terminal prostate cancer as well. This day after Biden announced his. And it leads you to the conclusion of one of 2 possible things. Right. Normally it takes, and this is me putting on my doctor hat where I'm an expert on cancer. I'm now an oncologist, but normally, and any oncologist listening, they can correct me if I'm wrong. Normally it takes several years, like maybe 5 years to develop to this point. And the president of the United States is getting blood work regularly done, right? Which it would show up in the blood. It should show up in the blood work, right? That something's going on. And he should be getting, prostate examinations at least yearly. And so it's like the fact that I guess we just never caught it is insane that they expect anyone to believe that. So he's either had it for years, or he has some kind of crazy turbo cancer that just turned into stage 4 prostate cancer.
Everybody knows
out of
that there
nowhere.
was something wrong with it, right?
Yeah, for a long time, there's been something wrong with it.
So this isn't surprising. It's also not surprising that they would lie about it. It's what they do.
Of course they lie. Yeah.
That there's a scandal here, but there's no surprises.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think he's had it for the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
And they just covered it up. And part of it, I mean, this really sick thing is, if that's true, they did not treat him, or at the very least, right, their options for treatment of the disease were much more limited by the fact they don't want the whole world to know that he has prostate cancer and is being treated for it. Right. So like no chemo, no radiation, stuff that makes your hair fall out. Right. They're not going to, and makes you sick and unable to, do any, like they weren't going to do any of that. Right. Is what it looks like. I mean, I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know any of this stuff, but like, that's what it looks like, man. And if that's true, like how sick do you got to be? Like to just grasp hold of power and want it so badly. But it's like, yeah, that's what these people are like, right? I'm under no illusions that we are ruled by anything but people like that, right? That they would take this doddering old man and sentence him to death so that they could have power. Yeah, so they could have Kamala Harris be president for 10 years, right? That was the whole plan, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole plan is he dies in office, she takes over, and then she gets to be president for 10 years, right? And destroy our country, right? That is what like would have happened to America other than, right, a fraction of an inch, right? A bullet going by Trump's head, right? That's what we were spared, right? That's what was revealed this week.
Is Obama on good terms with Kamala Harris, that faction?
I mean, you heard different things during the campaign and things like that, but I think so.
Sorry.
I think so. I mean, he was quite obviously like because like Obama isn't just like the man himself. Like he's calling Joe and saying, "Hey, Joe, we need, do this, do that." Right? It's like a president isn't, especially when we're talking about the regime, isn't just like the guy. It's the entire apparatus behind him, all of the advisors, all the council, all of the people in the administration, right? And they were all the same people in Biden's administration. I mean, this was the third Obama term, right? It just doesn't have him sitting as a figurehead, right? So Kamala would have been the fourth, fifth, and sixth Obama terms, right? That's what functionally we were looking at. And
I think so.
And man, God spared us that fate, right? I don't know what his plan is, obviously, but he clearly wants America to keep going for a little while longer because, man, she would want it's done. It's over. And there's no fixing it after that.
Yeah.
So two more things. Speaking of the White House, can you pull up that video, Kate? Gary, can you pull up that video? Almost called him by a different name.
That's weird. Why would you do that?
Yeah, that one right there. Yep. We could pull it up. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but there we go. All right, let's go.
What does it take for you to be convinced
Can you hear it?
there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the president. It's, for him,
So President Trump
rather have him
had
in jail.
Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa. No, you can keep playing it. That's okay. That's fine. Had him at the White House this week. Did you see any of this?
I did. I just took
Yeah.
of it.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Well, keep playing.
Listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it'll take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it.
Sure.
And we have documentaries, we have news
You had no idea
stories.
this was
And
coming.
then, is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and
This is incredible, man.
It has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
We
we
have-
will.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down,
Ramaphosa? Oh, yeah.
turn the lights down, and just put this on.
Lay
It's
the
right
lights
behind
down.
you. Johan.
Nothing this parliament can do, with or without you. People are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care.
He's losing it, man. Look, all his bobos there too. Like, just they don't know what to do either. They're losing their minds, right? All of his staffers, yeah, his entourage.
We don't need to watch all this. The clips. Is it on pause?
Yeah.
Why was he there?
This is date. It was. I mean, just like all these foreign leaders come and visit.
Was he coming to ask for something specific?
I think it's the same like trade negotiations and like they have these. They host like one or two leaders a week.
Yeah,
or more. And so, right, Trump took the opportunity to ask, why are these white people getting killed in your country? Right. Right. They're being genocided, man. And you see how he's like denying it. Oh, no, if that were happening, no. It's like, I mean, this would be like a president other than FDR, disgusting cretin, having Joseph Stalin in the White House in like 1934, saying like, hey, I think there's a famine going on in Ukraine, right? You're starving those people to death. And right, you got anything to say about that? And oh no, if that were happening, no. I mean, you would be hearing about it, wouldn't you? And it's like, well, we've got some documents, we've got some evidence that it's happening, right? They're lying about it, right? They're lying about it. And all of this is, I mean, some of it is like it's I mean, it's an narco tyranny there, where the state looks the other way when gangs go murder white farmers, and part of it is. Right. I mean, you weren't here last week when Will was talking about this, but like you killed them and they don't have any heirs to take the land. Right. You just start squatting on it and you take it yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why they get killed. I mean, partly, I mean, some of it's just like petty robbery and things like that too, or just the kind of violence you have in a failed state like South Africa. I mean, how many times have we had different guys in South Africa on where we've had to reschedule because of power outages?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like 2 or 3 times with Ernst.
Like right before we were trying to film with him, someone like took all the copper out of that.
Yeah. They just did. Yeah. Sorry, we got a power outage. Yeah, they took all the copper out of the transformer on our block, and it's like, oh, that sounds like a fun place to live. And so I mean, it's a totally failed state. It is, and it's full of our narco tyranny, and their view is that, and now the government is saying, no, we're going to take the land away from white people, right? That's their official policy that they're pursuing, is to just take it without compensation. Just, we're taking it. You don't get anything. Too bad, right? Because there's a hatred of specifically of Boers in South Africa, like the people that made South Africa, right? They actually were there before all of the recent arrivals as well, right, are hated for making a thriving first world country. They're hated for it, right? And they're not, it's because of apartheid. That's why we're angry. It's like, no. Right? You hate them for existing, right? Most of these people, like you look at the video of the refugees that have come, but most of them weren't even alive during apartheid.
Yeah.
Right. That's the other thing. Right. They weren't even, most of them were kids.
It's the same thing as blaming people for slavery today.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing. It's the same thing.
The exact same thing. Yeah. And it's like, okay. But you look at it, and the reason why the South Africa issue is important is because people go, why are you talking about stuff that's outside of America? Don't you like, because I got comments like that on X.com this week. Like, I only care about America. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Because, right, what's the plan here? The plan is to turn America into South Africa. Right? That's their plan. Right? That was, if the bullet hits Trump in the head, Kamala Harris is president a year from now, after Joe Biden dies. And what do you think she was going to do? Right?
She's part
Tens
of the plan.
of millions more foreign people coming here. And the percentage of Americans that are here gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then what do you think is going to happen? Right? The nice big fat home you own that you bought for $30,000 is now worth $1 million. Right? Talking to a certain generation. Right? Guess what? You're going to get your skull caved in and somebody's going to take it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Right? That's the plan.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what they're doing in South Africa. Right? They want that for America. They want that for the entire West. And it's like obvious, man. Right? It's obvious to anyone paying attention. And I'm sure like a bunch of people are going to be like, "Oh, Andrew, you can't say that. You can't say that. That's a conspiracy theory." It's like, dude, they celebrate this stuff. They celebrate it. Which leads me to our final news story. Our final news story of the week. And this is probably going to be the most controversial one to our audience. Was or at least my commentary on it will be. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday that that 2 Israeli diplomats were shot and killed. Yeah, it was from yesterday. Were shot and killed out in front in DC, in front of the whatever Jewish museum or whatever. And who were they killed by, CJ?
I wasn't paying attention.
Oh,
I'm here to learn the news.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You are. And just give your thoughts on it after I halfway explain it.
Was it like Free Palestine people?
No, it was a right-wing Christian nationalist that killed them. No, of course it wasn't.
That makes sense.
Of course it wasn't. That if it was, you would be hearing about it nonstop. No, it was by a leftoid freak. Free Palestine.
That's what I said.
I know, but you're ruining my joke. And right,
classic. Get asked a question, don't know how to answer.
And like the kid, it's not even clear. I mean, maybe he was born here, not an American, right? Not an American.
Edgy.
He right. What is he? He's the third worldist.
Yes.
Right. That's what all this stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All of like the leftist opposition to Israel, and I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face until people get it, right? They're not critical of Israel the way like you or I would be, or the way like
Ron Paul would be.
Yeah, Daryl Cooper would be, right? I mean, Daryl has had some harsh criticism of Israel and their conduct in the war and so forth, or the way that like Pat Buchanan would be critical of Israel, right? They don't care about any of that because they hate America. Right? They hate our country, and they view them as the same as us. Right? They view them as colonizers. Right? They care about third world liberation. Right? What do you think they think about America? The exact same thing. Right? So it isn't like, so this issue, and so it dovetails perfectly with the South Africa conversation, because right, they view it as an apartheid state, and these people are complicit in genocide. So we're just going to go kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what they think. Right. Of course, the left is extremely violent. You see this after the United Health CEO was shot and killed, and he's celebrated. Right. I think she's now former New York Times, Atlantic, Washington Post. I don't know where Taylor Renz is like, "Oh, I love this. He's so wonderful." Right. And the way that they talk about this killer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, so dreamy. He's a heartthrob. It's like they're promoting this violence. Oh, yeah. You've not seen this?
No.
The way people talk about Luigi.
Oh, Luigi. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, come on, man. How do you not see it? And what does that do? It inspires more of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. They're extremely, extremely violent. I mean, last week there was a car bombing of a fertility clinic outside of San Diego.
Mhm.
And immediately who do they start blaming it on?
Yeah. Right-wing Christians.
Right-wing Christians. But who was it actually? It was an anti-natalist, right? Part of our anti-natalism subreddit, right? Who wrote a manifesto about not consenting to being born, right? So he blew up an IVF clinic, right? And it's yeah. Like, okay, that's the way these people are, right? They're sick, they're violent, they're evil. They are, and these two, and actually, right, the two victims apparently were like some kind of messianic Christians or something, right? And so like, and so I see this all the time. Like you see this, like JD Vance said this, and many other people are like, oh, it's anti-Semitism. It's anti-Semitism. And it's like, no, it's not, right? They hate. They're not like sitting there thinking. I mean, even though they'll do like they'll say anti-Semitic stuff, right? They will.
It's just their Willism. It's just anti-European. It's anti.
Yeah. Like they will say it. They will say stuff about Jews that could be obviously construed as anti-Semitic.
Mhm.
They're doing it to get a rise out of people, though, right? That's the point. Right. It's not like they believe this or whatever, or that their criticism is religious or ethnic, in that sense.
Right.
Right. It's that they hate people they consider white.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Right. They hate white people, and they hate Israel for that reason. And it's like, once you see that, like, that's the reality. And it's like, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be like, yeah, Donald Trump, just do whatever Benjamin Netanyahu wants now. Like, no. I want you to pursue our interests as a people in America. But you can't get over the fact that leftism is an international thing, and it is anti-white, and it is pro-third world, right? And it views it in those terms, right? It sees the Western world, the white world, versus everybody else. And that this group needs to be wiped out, right? That's their view of things. And they lump Israel in with that. And whether people on the right want to, acknowledge that or agree with that, it's like, well, no, Israel is its own separate thing. Doesn't matter. That's how they view it.
Yeah.
Right. They view us in the same way as them.
Yeah.
And you have to just acknowledge that reality, right? That's the way these people think. And it's not a good development, obviously, right? I mean, a lot of people think, oh no, it's good that like it's affecting the American-Israeli relationship, and like a lot of people on the right think this, like, oh, it's over for them. Now we'll be able to decouple from Israel and pursue our own policy. And it's like, no, right? You do not want these people taking over.
In fact, they believe
Not
that
at
Israel
all.
is downstream of like us.
Yeah.
They think,
Whereas the right believe the opposite, the opposite way.
So like
yeah.
their actual target is us.
Yeah.
And
Of
Israel's
course.
just in the way, or just a temporary
This is a
thing,
very
you
good
know?
Trump meme. You just
Thank you.
they're not after me.
Right.
They're not after me. They're after you.
I'm
But I'm
just
just in the way. And you could just post the lion with the Star of David on it instead of Trump. But like, no, you're right though.
Yeah.
Like that's like this issue. That's what it matters. And like whether American Jews get this or not doesn't matter as much either. Right. I mean, they could still think of it that it's just run of the mill old anti-Semitism. Right. It's not.
Yeah.
Right. It's left-wing radicalism.
Yeah.
Right. Anti-white hatred. Right. That's what it is. Ultimately. And it's funny because you'll have Christians that will be like, they'll deny that because they do not want to acknowledge that like there actually is anti-white race hate. right? Oh no, it's not really that. It's actually Christianity they hate. And it's like, well, what about this? Well, it's their proximity to Christianity that they hate. It's like, no, man, you just call a spade, right? It is what it is.
What if it's
Well-
not that they don't want to acknowledge? What if it's they just don't care? I think
Yeah.
I think that they have a very modern definition of Christianity that's pure propositional. Whereas my view of Christianity is it's a historical thing tied up with the European experience. And I think that attacking whites and attacking Christianity is essentially the same thing. They're attacking the Christendom, and it's all caught up in the European experience. So I think it's both.
Yeah. Even though, like, clarify, like, you don't think that Christianity is merely European, obviously.
No, but I think that Europe was the mechanism by which God brought
Yeah, of course.
Christianity through history.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
For the last 2,000 years, at least. Yeah.
Doesn't mean someone non-European can't be
Yeah,
saved. or
exactly.
something.
Yeah.
But I do
make sure
think-
you got to make sure you say that because people say, what? You what? European? What? It's like, yeah, you're right.
No, I do believe that Christian civilization is the West. That's what I believe.
Yeah, more or less.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a good note to end on. Any other? Was there any other news? I'm the one that keeps track of the news, not you. I think that's basically it. Yeah. Any important updates that people need to know about?
Feel the heavens still happening.
It is. We are. It is. Yeah. Speaking of like BAP not finishing an art, not doing art. Yeah, that's never gonna get done. Like, when is this gonna happen?
No, it's on our minds.
Yeah, we're spending a good deal of time on it and thinking through it. So we want to make sure that that it is the absolute, like, we can just throw it out there now and it is not ready. But we want it to be the highest possible quality, and that takes time.
It does take time.
I mean, if we had like tens of thousands of paying subs, like, that could be our full-time
That is so
job.
true.
And
That's so
so yeah, go
10,000.
to contramundumpodcast.com, contramundumpod.
both will work.
Okay, both
Yeah.
work. contramundumpod.com and sign up and invite 10 or 20,000 friends. And then we'll get Appeal to Heaven done really quick. We'll hire guys to do it for us. We'll just direct them. But no, we're very excited about that. It's a fun project to work on. And yeah, anything else?
I don't think so.
All right.
Memorial Day
Well,
weekend.
we're excited to see many of you in a couple weeks in Ogden. That'll be great. So, well, thank you all for watching. Please share and like and subscribe and all of those great things. And for all of us here, for We're All Gonna Make It, who isn't gonna make it today, not enough time for him. Stay peacefully dangerous, and we will see you next time.